News every 15 minutes, weather every 10, and sports twice an hour.
Newstalk KGVO, AM 1290 and now 101.5 FM.
You're listening to Montana Morning with Peter Christian.
Fresh off a victory in district court, the mayor has a press conference about water. Good morning, everyone. It's Montana Morning. It's Wednesday, June 17th, 2015. The sky's partly cloudy. We've got 52 degrees. Beautiful morning in western Montana. Our newscast sponsored by Dig It Excavating. They bring 30 years of excavation excellence to every job. 214-4292 is the number. At a press conference yesterday in the city council chambers, Missoula Mayor John Engen explained how the city is paying for the acquisition of Mountain Water Company, a cost that so far has surpassed $3 million.
In the event that we were unsuccessful in this process, we would have had to figure out a way to pay it back through general fund, either through expense savings or additional taxes. We will be able to roll this into the larger acquisition cost, into the utilities, so there should be no tax implication for anyone.
Attorney Natasha Jones with Boone Carlberg addressed the issue of leakage and loss of water within the present water system and how that issue would have been handled by the company and by the city.
It is a fact. It was not disputed by Carlisle that this system leaks more water than it delivers to the customers, and that it is a system that is aged and tens of millions of dollars are necessary in the coming years to fix the system.
Before the trial began, both sides maintained they would appeal to the Montana Supreme Court, which Jones felt would be advantageous to the city, considering the opinion set forth by Judge Karen Townsend.
I go back to Judge Townsend's order. She very thoughtfully weighed the evidence, and she set forth an order that we believe will be well received by the Montana Supreme Court if an appeal is made, and we think it unlikely it would be disturbed on appeal.
The court's decision was first revealed during Monday night's city council meeting. The Wyoming state engineer says he expects it may take a year to resolve the legal dispute between Wyoming and Montana over water rights on the Tongue River. Montana sued back in 2007, claiming Wyoming had been shorting deliveries on the river for decades. It flows north before joining the Yellowstone in Montana. A special master appointed by the U.S. Supreme Court ruled this winter that Wyoming had shortened deliveries on only 2 years and the damages were small. Montana recently urged the court to reject the special master's recommendation that it wasn't necessary to determine how much water Montana has a right to store in the Tongue River Reservoir. The state crime lab in Missoula has identified the badly burned body of a Missoula man whose remains were found in a vehicle at the Harry Morgan campground in northern Powell County. Sheriff Scott Howard said personnel responded to the fire last Thursday.
So we responded along with the Ovando Volunteer Fire Department. When they got there was a vehicle that had completely burned, and then with further looking around we could see the remains of a body. And it was an SUV, so the seats were down, and it was like somebody would be sleeping inside the vehicle at a campground.
Howard told KGVO News the body was that of Colin Patrick McKnight, a counselor in Missoula. Howard said the cause of death and fire are unknown, but no foul play is suspected. He said the crime lab used dental records and DNA from the scene to identify McKnight's body. McKnight had apparently been sleeping in the vehicle when the fire started. The identity of a Frenchtown woman who was killed after being thrown from her horse Sunday has been released. Deputy County Coroner Bill Burt with the Sheriff's Office has details.
Her name is Desiree Rogers. It's my understanding she was out riding a horse with some family members, and a dog came running towards the horses and spooked the horses, which caused her to fall to the ground. She was transported to the St. Patrick's Hospital by ground ambulance and treated in the emergency room and moved to the intensive care unit, where she later succumbed to her injuries.
The fatal accident occurred Sunday evening at about 7. Get more details on our website at newstalkkgvo.com. The Bozeman Police Department responded rapidly yesterday after a call placed by a 5-year-old boy led to a 6-hour standoff at a hotel. Bozeman City Chief of Police Steve Crawford has more.
Just before 1 o'clock in the morning, our officers responded to a kind of an open 911 line where a young child seemed to be scared and said something about a bad guy being in the room with him. Our officers responded to a hotel on the north side of town, the Microtel, and ultimately located a male subject in a hallway that barricaded himself in a room with a small child.
Officers tried to talk the 36-year-old Kenneth Marquis of Billings, but the situation quickly escalated to the point where a negotiator and a SWAT team had to be called in.
The male actually tried to escape out an exterior window and then went back inside. And officers heard a gunshot from within a hotel room, and a kind of a standoff followed. About 6 hours later, he was taken into custody without incident. He agreed to come out of the hotel room. The investigation has led to an arrest for criminal endangerment.
According to Crawford, the bullet went into a neighboring hotel room. More charges may be forthcoming as the investigation continues. Crawford said the situation did not appear to be a kidnapping. He praised the work of the negotiator, who was able to talk Marquis into surrendering. Civil rights activists worry that the ruse perpetrated by former NAACP Spokane leader Rachel Dolezal will hurt their efforts in a region that has struggled with racial issues in the past. Dolezal resigned her NAACP post this week after her parents said she was a white woman who for years has posed as black. Spokane, a city of over 200,000, is 90% white and the major population center of the Intermountain region known as the Inland Northwest. The Aryan Nations, a neo-Nazi organization, was for decades based north of Coeur d'Alene. The group was bankrupted in 2000 following a lawsuit pursued by the Southern Poverty Law Center. Governor Steve Bullock signed an executive order yesterday to address American Indian health disparities. David Parker said that on average, Indian Americans living in Montana have a lower life expectancy than non-Indians.
The life expectancy of American Indians in Montana is 20 years less than their non-Indian neighbors, friends, and coworkers. American Indian families also are significantly more likely to suffer from cardiovascular disease, cancer, and respiratory illness.
An office in Helena will provide services close to those Indian Americans who live in and around the city.
The Indian Health Services and what the state of Montana is doing and try to figure out how to do things like lessen the disparity and things like that.
Parker says they're still working out details, including staffing and finances. An exact date of the opening has not yet been released. A federal judge is pressing U.S. officials to explain why it's taken 3 decades to decide on a proposal to drill for natural gas outside Glacier Park, in an area considered sacred by some Indian tribes in Montana and Canada. A frustrated U.S. District Judge Richard Leon called the delay a nightmare during recent hearings in Washington. He ordered the Interior and Agriculture Departments to report back to him with any other example of where they have dragged their feet for so long. Our News Talk time now, 6:12.
Newstalk, KGVO.
Missoula's official weather station.
Clear to partly cloudy skies today with our highs topping out in the low 80s. There is a slight chance of a shower or thunderstorm this afternoon. Ample sunshine is expected Thursday with highs in the low 80s. We drop back into the 70s Friday. I'm meteorologist Brooke Foster for KECI 13.